I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and welcome to my podcast, Cleaning Up the Mental Mess. And today we're going to talk a little bit about cleaning up the mental mess from this extreme heat. I mean, it's been crazy, the global heat changes around the world, and the extreme heats of, up to 110, 120, some places recorded at 135 for long periods of time. So we got to learn how to beat the mental heat, because this may be, with climate change, what's going to happen in the future. But for now, in this time and this moment, there are some things that we can do to help, and to help build our resilience in our brain and our body, and to help with our mental health. So that's what I wanted to talk about today: how to beat the mental heat, how to keep a cool head as the heat cranks up, avoiding brain fog, memory loss, and other mental health concerns related to high temperatures. First of all, let's talk about what temperature does in the brain. Temperature is not a bad thing. Temperature actually drives the neurochemical reactions and the neurochemistry and the biochemistry of the brain and the body. So it's the main driver. So we need heat, but we need it in a balanced way, kind of like the Goldilocks principle. Not too much, not too little, just enough. So obviously currently at the moment, we're getting too much. But now let's think of the fact that we have things like saunas, where people go into states of extreme heat, but for limited periods of time. Generally, the recommended time for a sauna is around about 15 to 20 minutes, between 10 and 20 minutes, and the temperatures can go up to anything from up to 110, maybe 120. So that is pretty hot. And so, but it's limited periods of time. It's not long periods of time. And then generally you would follow that with getting into cool air, into a cold shower. So you'd have two extremes, and you maybe go back in the sauna, you may do 5-minute blocks. The point there is this extreme nature of not going in it for too long and then cooling down with extreme coolness. So an ice cold shower, or even jumping in those ice cold plunge pools, or even maybe an ice bath if that is what you have available, and then maybe going back in the heat. So we do know that short bursts of extreme heat and extreme cold actually can help build our resilience, can help actually affect right down to the level of our DNA and change how our body adapts to the heat. So applying that principle, we could do that sort of thing in our daily life. So if we think about 15 to 20 minutes as being the max that it's safe to be out in that kind of temperature, we want to then try and limit our time to 15 to 20 minutes. As you then come back into a cool environment, you want to make sure that you've left your AC on really cool, so that it's really cold, maybe on 67 or something, so it's icy. So when you walk in, you feel, sure, such a contrast. Maybe you can jump in an ice cold shower and try and stand there for 1 to 3 minutes, maybe throw ice down your shirt or something like that, or just, have a bottle of ice water and spray that on yourself. So you want to get into a short period of contrast. Maybe you have an ice bath and you can jump into that. Now, obviously, that's not the most practical on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. So the ice-cold spray, or throwing ice down your shirt, or putting ice on your face, walking into an extremely cold environment, sitting in front of a fan and blowing ice-cold air on your face, getting into a car, putting on your fan and making your car really cold and putting the fan on for a burst where it's really icy. You want to do those quick bursts to help your body to develop the resilience from extreme heat to the extreme cold. And then we can then sort of normalize the temperature, maybe put the car temperature up a little bit so it's not so freezing, and turn the fan down a little bit, and so same thing in the house. So you want to then balance that out. And this can help with increasing the thermoregulation ability of our body. It can help it to adapt so that your brain and body can deal with extremes more effectively. And we build resilience, we train our body over time. So we're in this heat now. So this is a chance for us to train ourselves and our children's bodies. So if heat or temperature is the main driver of biochemistry, if we are in extended periods of heat, what is actually happening? So the biochemistry, the temperature drives the biochemistry, and if it's an extended period, that can start affecting the energy in the brain, and the energy starts getting drained. And energy is how the brain is basically building our experiences inside of us. So energy collapses into making little proteins, which then form into little networks. And those are little neurons that are firing. So if the energy is drained, then it affects the firing of the neurons. And the neurons will either fire too slowly or too fast, or even go silent. So if they are firing, if the energy is drained and the neurons are firing too fast from the shock reaction, that can cause aggressiveness, irritability, uneasiness, levels of anxiety, increased levels of feeling anxious and antsy, that kind of thing. And then obviously, if it continues, that effect causes things like brain fog, difficult to remember things, getting forgetful, getting maybe losing your temper more quickly, that kind of thing. As the energy drains and the opposite happens, then the neurons start getting slower, firing slower, not being able to transfer the message as fast, or go silent. That can lead to things like lethargy, affect one's sleep, affect how you, also once again, memory, mood, etc. So the biochemistry changes affect the energy, affect the neurons, and also obviously affect the neurochemicals. So there's a correlation that's been shown in research between increased prolonged temperature affecting thermoregulation, the ability of the brain and body to control your temperature, and the reduction of serotonin, the release of serotonin. And as we know, serotonin is linked to mood, so that could account for the drop in mood and so on. So here's a fun activity that you could do to help to basically restore the energy balance in the brain, get those neurons firing properly, because if there isn't the right energy and there is this increased heat and the biochemistry is affected and the neurons are affected, that forgetting is actually evidence of damaged neurons. So what we want to do is we want to rebuild the brain. So we want to do things that rebuild the brain. So this is where coming from the extreme heat, and then you're going to go into extreme cold, like I already explained, and then stabilize the heat, and then do things like, you know, that when you eat cold ice cream and you get that brain freeze, that's really good too. You want to get the internal body temperature. If you want to cool down from the inside out and the outside in. So the contrasts of heat to cold that I explained are from the outside in, but by sucking on ice chips, eating ice cream, eating frozen yogurt, eating frozen berries, eating very frozen smoothies, that's the inside out. And you want to make them so cold and have a big spoonful, and then that will give you that like brain freeze, a little bit effect, and that can also cool you down quickly from the inside out. So these extremes we're almost using to our advantage to restore the balance and to restore the energy, and that will then also help with your mental health. So a fun activity that you could do is make some frozen yogurt, get plain yogurt. Yogurt is great for putting back the nutrients in the brain that we've lost from sweating and heat, and it's going to give your brain a boost of energy, increased blood flow. Also things like berries, all the different types of berries, either frozen or fresh or combination. Things like nuts, crushed nuts, granolas, oats, some grains, some honey. Those kinds of things will help with the nutrient loss and are a quick boost of energy, helping to reboot the energy of the brain. And make yourself a really nice smoothie, get your toppings, and once it's frozen, oh, by the way, you could also do this for your pets because they're also getting hot. You want to cool them down from the inside out. And what I always do for my pets, my two little Shih Tzus, is I make them little frozen yogurts, fat-free yogurt with honey, and in little shapes, and give them those so they can cool down from the inside out as well. Then what you can do is, while you're eating the frozen yogurt, with the brain building principle in mind, you want to regrow neurons in your brain. You want to stimulate neuroplasticity. You want to increase things like gamma wave activity. So therefore, doing something like, while you're eating the frozen yogurt, reading a really good fantasy book, or a book that is stimulating the imagination and creativity, and that fires up the brain and reboots the brain, like plugging in your phone and recharging the brain. And that helps to really stimulate a lot of neuroplasticity in the brain with brain building. You could also do that for a little bit. Reading is excellent. Read as much as you can. You should always read for all kinds of reasons, but for helping with this heat and mental health, the reading is going to help restore that energy in the brain and help calm down the neurochemistry, just because of the effect that as you read what is happening in your mind and your brain, it's so good for you and your mental health. Also, what you can do is do activities that are intellectually stimulating. Like I love to do research, read an article, maybe, or a book that's maybe, that's quite difficult, that stimulates you. Maybe do that math homework that you don't like. So once you've done some fun stuff, do a little bit of brain stimulation stuff that challenges you, which also forces neuroplasticity. So you're driving healing back into your brain through this combination of activities. this is also a time where you can start a new fun project, like maybe a new art project, or learn how to do kintsugi, which is when something's broken, you stick it back together and you rebuild things, pottery, or an art project or something like that, that you focus your energy on, which is distracting, but it's also very good for the psychoneurobiological networks that have been damaged by the heat. So those are some fun things that you can do that can really help to rebuild what has caused that help to rebuild the damage that has been caused by these extreme temperatures. So I hope that helps you, and I've got a lot of tips that help with mental health in my newest book, How to Help Your Child Clean Up Their Mental Mess. I'm super excited about this. It's going to be released on the 8th of October, and it's on pre-order now. And there's all kinds of pre-order specials. We've also got little Brainy. Throughout this book, I've got a character called Brainy, who walks the mental health journey with you and your child. And I've got this as a little toy as well, so you can order this, and it's on special at the moment with the pre-order bonus. We even have a coloring book, Brainy and Friends. So there's all different kinds of scenarios, mental health scenarios, where the child can color in and you can discuss, and there's a blank page where you can talk about things. I teach you how to help your child understand, what experiences trauma and social issues and identity issues, what those look like inside your mind, brain, body network, how to explain this to children as young as 2 to 10, how to deal with those mental health challenges, how to deal with anxiety and depression, how to use the neurocycle in order to help the child self-regulate and manage their mental health. This book is for ages 2 to 3 through 10. And then if you've got older children, they can also use this. So they love this book too. But I have the Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, which is for older children and adults. And I have the Neurocycle app. And the Neurocycle app, we're going to be this is already currently available. This you can use honestly from about 12 years onwards. And we're putting in we're putting in a whole thing for parents and children as well, for parents to help their children with their mental health. That'll be in by September. So there's lots of tips and things there to help keep you busy in the cold weather that will rebuild your brain. In this hot weather inside, when you come inside your house and it's cooler, there's a lot of things in here that you can actually do to help manage your mental health as well. That will be stimulating your brain and help to rebuild your brain. So I hope this helps you, and I hope that you manage to stay cool and beat that heat and try some of these things that I've told you. Stay cool. See you next time.